I've reached out to all the veterans on the channel to give me their best piece of advice they wish they knew when they were first starting out or when they returned to riding after a long break. So this video is all about helping you beginners and returning riders accessing that great fountain of wisdom. So let's get into all the great comments that I've received. When starting out off-road, I think it's important to know that small, slow, and lightweight is far better than tall, fast, and heavy. Couldn't agree more there, mate. Sales guys want to sell you big adventure bike, but all you need initially is a second-hand 250. Some people start on a big GS, but this slows down your development as a rider and costs you a lot of money and stress. Great advice there, mate. In fact, that pretty much echoes exactly what I did when I was first starting out as an off-road rider. But I went and got myself a GS, of course. That's what everyone does, get a big adventure bike. And the first dirt ride I did, I quickly realized that I was in over my head and needed something far lighter and that I could handle a lot better. Fast forward a few months of searching and educating myself, I went out and got a second-hand WR250R, and the rest was history. That was the best decision I ever made, and I learned so much on that bike because I could pick it up, I could handle it, and it wasn't intimidating. Brilliant recommendation for the new riders there, mate. Cheers for the input. So the next piece of advice is from Walter Conn. Practice standing up when the trail is bumpy, muddy, or rutted. Be careful, start slow, and your skills will progress fast. Both great pieces of advice. Stand up whenever it gets tricky. It'll give you more control over the bike because it lowers the center of gravity because your feet are on the pegs and all your weight is going through the pegs. It'll also make things far more comfortable for you because your legs will act as suspension. And be careful, start slow, and your skills will progress fast is particularly important. If you just go out there with the objective of enjoying yourself and having a great time, keeping your head on your shoulders, then your skills are naturally going to progress. Don't try and force it, just enjoy your time out there. The next piece of wisdom is from Kak or Kak. I'm sorry, I've butchered your name. They're saying, I like tall, fast, and lightweight. Most dual sports are a bit on the heavy side. Picking up a bike on the trail 4 or 5 times can be a lot harder if it's heavier. I think a lot of people, particularly when they're starting out with dual sports, get everything back to front. They go for what's familiar, or they go for what's going to make them feel comfortable when they're getting to the trail. They're not thinking about what's the best bike going to be when everything goes to poo. You need the bike that's going to be the best for you in the tricky situations, because in the easy situations you can deal with a bike being a bit buzzy through the handlebars or a bit flighty. You are not going to be wanting a huge adventure bike to pick up for the 100th time. You're going to want a light, easy bike that you're confident you can get through difficult situations. So great advice, mate. The next piece of advice is from Adversity. He's saying, I wish I knew that training was the best investment. So I'm not really sure whether you're saying official training where you go and do a particular course, which can be absolutely fantastic. It's a safe space to try stuff that you might not try in a regular everyday situation, and you've also got immediate expert advice on hand. But if you mean just training, going out there, getting time in the saddle and riding with guys who have experience, which is the way I did it, that is equally as helpful. So couldn't agree more. Just get out there, get some saddle time with some experts, whether it's paid or free, and it will really help your riding out. The next comment is from Jeff. How you doing, mate? Good to hear from you. Wish I had started earlier before my body was stuffed and was in better shape. That one hit a little bit too hard, mate. I couldn't agree more. So I really regret not getting into the dirt earlier because I started when I was 30. I'd already had 10 years of riding under my belt, all stuck on the tarmac, and it took me 10 years to figure out that the best kind of riding is in the dirt. And number 2, don't leave it to retire, do it now. That's a great piece of advice, whether you're 20 or whether you're 60. Don't be that guy that said I coulda, woulda, shoulda. I cannot explain how good it is for the soul as well as for the mental health, getting out into the dirt, in the bush, decompressing from the busyness of our urban lives. Wear tall boots anytime you're off-roading. Too easy to break an ankle. I learned the hard way. Well, that sucks, mate. I reckon that would have hurt quite a bit. I'm not going to name my mate that did this, but the first time he turned up to a ride, he turned up in Doc Martens. Now, you might think they're okay for riding off-road because they're a little more durable than your regular sneaker that you might wear, but trust me, you need proper impact protection because you will will be dropping your bike, coming off your bike. You will drop your bike on your legs sometimes, and you'll be hitting tree stumps. There's so many different things that you need to protect your legs from, and you need the absolute best. So I would say skip adventure boots, touring boots, go straight to MX and enduro boots. The next piece of wisdom is from Christian Brown. He's saying, start small. Power will absolutely not make up for bad technique. In fact, I would say the opposite. And I would completely agree with that. Don't get caught up with your ego, especially when you're starting out. Get a bike that's going to allow you to learn as fast as possible, not a bike that's going to fling you off into a tree. The next piece of wisdom is from Helderson. He's saying, don't buy a T7 as your first motorcycle, talking about the Yamaha Tenere 700. Lightweight is everything for learning off-road. The learning curve is so high with a CRF and so flat with a T7, I promise. So you can see with starting with a small and lightweight motorcycle, starting to bubble to the top of the recommendations here really is something I cannot highlight enough, and really is the focus of my channel and why I keep banging on about the bike behind me. And it doesn't have to be this bike. Get yourself a light 250 like other comments have said, a WR250R, CRF 250L, KLX 250 or 300, DRZ 400, or even if you're a bigger bloke, a DR 650. All those bikes are going to be fantastic because you're going to be able to pick them up on the regular. They'll be able to do anything you throw at them. They're simple, cheap to run, cheap to own, and when you're experienced and you know what you want out of a bike, then you can sell it and go splurge on something more awesome if you want, or just modify the crap out of the bike you got. Fitness is another super important thing because it really will dictate how well you do. If you're unfit and you're in for a long hot ride and it's really physically intense, your ability to react and manage difficult situations is going to diminish significantly, and it's really going to make things difficult for you. You're going to come off more, you're going to make more silly mistakes. I've experienced that myself. Even now that I'm getting my fitness back, it still is quite a challenge to do a full day's riding and still stay mentally sharp enough to handle the bike for that whole day. We're now going to switch over to a few Instagram comments to see what's going on over there. And the first comment is from Matt on the Throttle. He's saying, honestly, the one I keep coming back to is that dropping a bike is okay. It happens and it's far from the end of the world. I couldn't agree with this more, Matt. I think this is such an important thing to highlight, that dropping your bike is okay, and it's going to happen on the regular no matter what you do. Whether you're an enduro god or just starting out, we all drop our bike. After 15 years of riding, I still drop my bike, crash my bike all the time off-road, and I expect to be doing it for the next 15 years as well. So don't feel bad about dropping your bike. It means you're testing your limits, and that's the best way of improving as a rider. The next piece of wisdom is from Beyond the Letterbox. I like that name, mate. That's a creative one. Good boots are a must. The so-called adventure boots are a marketing hype. Decent off-road tires are the best. Suspension can wait until you're going fast enough to use it, in my opinion. Personal locator beacons are cheap and necessary if you do any riding alone. I should have bought a CRF well before I did. A small dual sport can go anywhere. He's got 37,500 kilometers on his since May. Done a full lap of Oz. Wish I'd done it sooner. There's so much to pick apart there. So good boots, yes. I see a lot of new riders, they go for the new and shiny. So they get adventure boots because they look protective, and they look far more protective than, say, touring boots or road orientated boots. But adventure boots, they will be the prettiest that show when you turn up to the cafe and order your latte. Really, you should be riding what the racers are riding off-road. It will feel strange and odd, and the first time you hop on your bike and try and ride with MX or enduro boots, which are what you should get, it's going to feel very awkward, and it's going to feel like you've made a huge mistake. But I promise you, push through that feeling, adjust the gear shifter to accommodate for the chunkier boots, because that safety is absolutely necessary. We've already had one person earlier talking about how they broke their ankle because they didn't get MX and enduro boots, and I want to highlight again, forget every other kind of boot except for MX and enduro boots if you plan to do any kind of serious off-road riding or spend the majority of your time in the dirt. It's the safest and best option. Not the most comfortable, but it's more comfortable than a broken leg. Decent tires off-road. Yes, good tires can really up your ability off-road. Often it's an overlooked modification. I see so many people getting stuck into doing ECUs and mufflers and filters trying to get the maximum power out of their bike. Forget all that crap. That really is just to extend their internet penis by another centimeter or two. You really want to be focusing on stuff that's improving you as a rider when you're first starting out. I would actually encourage you, if you're completely green to riding and you've never been off-road in the dirt, just start start with the stock tires. If it's a proper dual sport motorcycle, it will have tires that coat with the dirt. Learn on them for a little bit and see what kind of riding you like to do, because there's different tires for different styles of riding. Once you know the style of riding you want to do, get the tires that are good at that type of riding. That's a great piece of advice and will improve your riding far more than all the penis extending internet mods that are out there. Suspension can wait until you're going fast enough to use it, in my opinion. Also completely agree. The next piece of wisdom is from Sam Hill and is a very common one. What I didn't need to bring. Think backpacking to start with. Been at it 50 years now, twisted grip, see the world, round the world. Nice comment there, mate. 50 years, that's a pretty decent amount of time in the saddle. What I didn't need to bring. Yes, this is a fantastic point, particularly on multi-day adventure trips when you've got to pack all your camping gear. I see so many people packing their fears, so you really need to have a think about what you need and what's just there to make you feel better. The backpacking tip is actually a fantastic one that I've hit on a few times. You're really wanting to focus on being ultra light. Check out ultra light backpacking videos, particularly the thru hikers in America doing the Appalachian Trail, the Continental Divide, multi-month, half-a-year hikes. Those guys know what it is to go super lightweight. Their whole lives are in their backpack. And I've got so much great information that I've been able to take across to my camping and day riding that's really helped me drop a lot of weight off the bikes. The next comment is from Bus01 and he's saying, look at the weather reports for where you're going. Watch me forget to do that the next time I go. Sounds like you've made that mistake more than once, mate. How to prepare for adventure fuck-ups, and this one is from Richard. That's a really good one to point out, mate. I've seen a lot of riders, particularly when you're new and you just focus on getting out there and having fun, you don't particularly think about what could go wrong. And why would you? Because that would probably scare you from getting into the sport to start with. But it is something you need to consider, because I guarantee you, if you ride off-road enough, you're going to come across a situation where everything's just going to go to poo. And there's two things that you need most above all other things. You need some kind of communication device other than your phone for communicating emergency services. What I'm talking about is something to use a satellite system rather than the mobile network, because mobile networks do not work everywhere. That can be an EPIRB, a spot tracker. It could be a GPS like mine that is the InReach model, so it has an SOS function on the side. If you're filthy rich, you could use a sat phone, just some kind of device to contact your loved ones and emergency services. The second thing is a first aid kit. Tailor it to your geographical location and your own health needs. Also, just think about the kind of people you're riding with. It's better to have a good group of guys around you that can come together in an emergency situation and can think level-headedly and cool. And the last thing I would point out is take snacks and water with you. Both of those things are massively important. So don't let the potential for things to go wrong stop you from living life. Get out there, get on the bike, head into the sunset and get into the dirt, because I promise you it's going to be the most fun you've ever had with your pants on.